For Ottawa Centre.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, it's an honour to rise today. Given what the Minister had mentioned, this is National Seniors Day, and I appreciated the words the Minister just spoke. I also appreciate being the critic for a minister who considers himself a human rights advocate, and the work you named that you did, Minister, is impressive. Thank you for sharing that information with us. I also want to acknowledge that, I wouldn't be here today personally, Speaker, without seniors in my life. I think of people like Irma Davison, my grandmother, a fearless, and people in my grandparents' church would say at times ruthless parishioner who made sure that our church was engaged in building our community and helping the most vulnerable. I think of my grandfather, Walter Russell Davison, who served in the Second World War in Normandy and taught me every day the value of fighting for freedom and the need to speak up against hate and intolerance. And he told me about his comrades who paid the ultimate sacrifice. I think of my mother, who's now a senior, Rosemary Harden. Soon we're going to be celebrating her 70th birthday. All of the my siblings and I are going to get together and remember Mom, an arts teacher, a chorister, a private piano teacher, who, as a previous speaker had indicated, builds our community up through the arts. My father, Reg Harden, who had a successful small business in Hawkesbury, Ontario, in jewellery retail that sent me to school, that gave me a successful lot in life. I celebrate, Speaker, all of these seniors who made my life special. And when I think about the legacy seniors gave us, particularly the class of 1946, Speaker, the veterans who came back from the Second World War, I think about the Canada they wanted to build, a Canada with public health care for all, a Canada where everybody who is able and willing could find themselves decent employment, a Canada that made sure that we looked after people with disabilities and people who are marginalized through no fault of their own. And when I think about that legacy, Speaker, I can't help but reflect on things I've seen in this House in the last 3 months. Specifically, Speaker, I arrived in this building late today because I spent the morning in a courtroom in Ottawa. I was in a courtroom in Ottawa, Speaker, bearing witness and friendship to Norman Traversy. Norman Traversy was a firefighter in the city of Mississauga, Speaker, who for 12 years has been fighting for WSIB coverage for 5 diagnoses of post-traumatic stress, Speaker. We've had a lot of platitudes expressed in this place about respect for police and fire and paramedics and crisis workers. But my friend Norm was in a courtroom today, a personal civil suit he's had to launch against the city of Mississauga, Speaker, because his post-traumatic stress has not been diagnosed. Next month, Speaker, Norm will be 63. Most firefighters retire at the age of 60. It's a difficult job that bears considerable mental and physical duress. I think it's high time for us to celebrate what the Minister has said, to celebrate seniors every single day, Speaker. But into the record today, I want to acknowledge that we're dealing with a government right now in this place which has lowered premiums for workers, safety and insurance board premiums for employers by 30% in January. And I want to ask you, as you cheer yourselves on, are you happy lowering premiums for some of the wealthiest employers in this province while people like Norm can't get benefits? How do you sleep at night? How do you sleep at night while people who we thank for their courageous work in Ottawa for the tornadoes, or here in Toronto when the subways flood, or when shootings happen and people rush to the scene, when people get hurt, people who are seniors in this case get hurt in the line of duty, Speaker, it shouldn't be the job of government to figure out ways to pad profits for some of the wealthiest employers in this province. It should be the job of government to stand by people who stand by us. That's what Norman Traversy did every day of his life, Speaker. And for the last 12 years, he's been through hell. He's a senior. He has my undying respect. I know the Speaker, Mr. Arnott, has supported him when he was a constituent of his. I've asked the Premier, I've asked the Minister of Labour, I've asked every single official I can find in this government to help out Mr. Traversy. So that is my personal pitch to you, my friends. This is a man who right now finds himself in a very dire health situation. He is not alone. Many other first responders are suffering from mental health right now because the way in which we've changed presumptive diagnoses of mental health injuries is not ambitious enough. On Seniors' Day, I rise to thank the elders who have helped me in my life, but I also rise to call our attention to Norman Traversy and every single senior suffering like him. Thank you, Speaker.